Chapter 34. Shadows over Wakanda. Time, skip, Wakanda. As the Quinjet lands, Layla looks over to everyone. Are we ready? Natasha looks over to Layla. I am, but you better not join us. I don't want you or the baby to get hurt. Layla looks at Natasha and she does a little smile. I know. Everyone starts to leave the jet. Bruce asks Rhodes quietly as he puts on his jacket, should we bow? Rhodes, with a little joke in his mind, replies, yeah, he's a king. Steve and Natasha walk over to T'Challa and Okoye. Seems like I'm always thanking you for something. Bruce bows to T'Challa and Rhodes looks at him. What are you doing? Rhodes asks. T'Challa looks over to Bruce and explains, we don't do that here. Then he turns his attention to Steve. So, how big of an assault should we expect? Bruce walks with the others. Sir, I think you should expect quite a big assault. How are we looking? Natasha asks. T'Challa looks to his right at Natasha. You will have my Kingsguard, the Border Tribe, the Dora Milaje, and... Bucky walks over to the group. And a semi-stable 100-year-old man. Steve smiles as he hugs him and Bucky hugs back until his eyes darts at Layla and notices her hand on her stomach. Steve looks at Layla before at Bucky. How you been, Buck? And yeah, me and Layla have been a little busy. Bucky chuckles at that. Not bad. For the end of the world, and I've noticed. Time skip, Shuri's lab. Whoa! Bruce says in a shocked. Shuri looks at the hologram. The structure is polymorphic. Bruce nods as he explains awkwardly. Right, we had to attach each neuron non-sequentially. Shuri looks straight at him. Why didn't you just reprogram the synapses to work collectively? Bruce thought about it for a moment before replying. Because we didn't think of it. Shuri shrugs her shoulders. I'm sure you did your best. Wanda looks from Vision to Shuri. Can you do it? Shuri looks at Wanda and slowly nods. Yes, but there are more than 2 trillion neurons here. One misalignment could cause a cascade of circuit failures. It will take time, brother. Steve looks at Shuri. How long? Shuri shrugs her shoulders again. As long as you can give me? The alarm starts to ring. Okoye looks at her hologram. Something's entered the atmosphere. Sam outside with Bucky presses his comms. Hey, Cap! We got a situation here. Bucky looking up to see what's going on. God, I love this place. Rhodes presses his comms to tell them. Yeah, don't start celebrating yet, guys. We got more incoming outside the dome. Back inside Shuri's lab, both T'Challa and Steve look at each other. Vision gets up weakly. It's too late. We need to destroy the stone now. Natasha looks straight at him. Vision, get your ass back on the table. T'Challa walks over to his weapon room. We will hold them off. Steve looks at Wanda. Wanda, as soon as that stone's out of his head, you blow it to hell. Wanda looks at Steve as she nods. I will. Evacuate the city, engage all defences, T'Challa says before looking over to Steve. And get this man a shield. Steve looks at T'Challa, then at Layla. Layla looks at Steve and holds his hands. Steve, go. They're going to need you out there. Steve shakes his head. I'm not leaving you, not now. Layla moves her hands to his cheek. I'll be okay, I promise. T'Challa walks over to them. Captain Rogers, everyone needs you on the field. And Layla will be protected within these walls. Wakanda does not fail those under its care. Steve glanced at him, then back at Layla. His hand lingered against hers on his cheek, reluctant to go. Layla leans forward slightly as she smiled before whispering, Go be the hero I fell in love with, and kisses him. Steve closes his eyes for a moment, then looks at her and whispered back, "You are my world." Steve and T'Challa walks outside to fight alongside the others. Chapter 35. Ashes over Wakanda. Time skip. Battle of Wakanda. Steve looks at the ships coming towards them. Then his eyes dart back to the tower, noticing Layla watching them inside. Natasha turns to face Bruce. "How are we looking, Bruce?" Bruce looks at the controls as he replies, "Yeah, I think I'm getting the hang of it." Bruce uses his Hulkbuster and exclaimed, "Wow! This is amazing, man. It is like being the Hulk without, actually." He accidentally trips on a rock. Back in Shuri's lab, Layla shakes her head slightly and whispers, "Careful, Brucey." Back on the field, Bruce gets up. I'm okay. Rhodes flew past him. I got 2 heat signatures breaking through the tree line. T'Challa walks over to M'Baku and shakes his hand. "Thank you for standing with us." M'Baku replied back in Showa, "Of course, brother." Steve, Natasha and T'Challa walks over to the force field. Natasha looks around before looking at Proxima. "Where's your other friend?" Proxima looks straight at Natasha. "You will pay for his life with yours. Thanos will have that stone." Back at the lab. Layla looks over at Shuri, who is working hard, but she doesn't want to distract her and looks back at the battlefield. "Over my dead body, you will get this stone." Back on the battlefield. Steve straight at Proxima. "That's not gonna happen." T'Challa spoke up. "You are in Wakanda now. Thanos will have nothing but dust and blood." Proxima looks at them. "We have blood to spare." Bucky asks Steve as he walks back with Natasha and T'Challa. "They surrender?" Steve stands by Bucky. "Not exactly." On the battlefield, as the war broke out, the ship opens and aliens drop and runs towards the force field. T'Challa leads the Wakandans in the war cry, "Yibambe," telling them to hold fast as the Outriders bound toward the barrier. Bucky looks at the aliens running towards them. "What the hell?" Natasha looking to the side. "Looks like we pissed her off." Okoye's widened slightly. "They're killing themselves." Sam flying around yelling, "You see the teeth on those things?" Layla back in the lab, but Rhodes call out to him. "All right, back up, Sam. You're going to get your wings singed." Layla mutters to herself as she watched inside. "Sam, please, watch your wings." Blue lightning streaked past them. Pietro. He darted through the charging Outriders, knocking rows of them flat before they even reached the line. "Try and keep up!" he yelled, laughing as he blurred past Bucky to yank an alien off his blind side. Bucky glanced at the empty air where he'd been and shook his head, muttering, "Show off!" Above them, the sky split red. Clark shot down from the clouds, cape snapping behind him. He ploughed straight through a warship, the wreckage exploding into fire, then slammed into the battlefield like a meteor, sending Outriders flying in all directions. "Stay down," he warned one hulking brute, searing it to ash with heat vision, before lifting off again. "Guess we got another alien," Rhodes muttered over comms, watching Clark tear through the enemy line. "Not an alien," Steve corrected, panting as he swung his shield. "A friend." Bruce tells Steve through the comms, "Cap, if these things circle the perimeter and get in behind us, there's nothing between them and Vision." Steve looks at the aliens in front of them before replying. "Then, we better keep him in front of us." Okoye looks at T'Challa. "How do we do that?" T'Challa breathes in and out for a moment, then looks at her to reply. "We open the barrier." Layla tries to shout through the comms, but it cracks. "Wait! You cannot!" T'Challa presses his comms. On my signal, open Northwest Section 17. A female voice comes out. Requesting confirmation, my king. You said open the barrier? T'Challa replies as he nods to himself. On my signal. M'Baku looks at what's going on in front of him and mutters, This will be the end of Wakanda. Then it will be the noblest ending in history, Okoye replies. Steve activates his shield. T'Challa steps forward before yelling, Wakanda, forever! Layla in the lab watches the fight starting and she mutters quietly, Everyone, be safe. T'Challa uses his comms on his wrist to ask Shuri, How much longer, Shuri? Shuri yells slightly, I've barely begun, brother. You might want to pick up the pace. T'Challa's voice came over the comms. Don't rush, Layla said firmly, turning towards Shuri with a trembling voice. No mistakes. Do what you need to. They'll hold the line out there, but you hold the line in here. Layla goes back to watching the fight and she flinches slightly as Bucky gets knocked off his feet. Bucky! The chaos below worsened. The Outriders poured through breaches in the barrier, overwhelming the Wakandan soldiers. Layla shook her head, her breath trembling. No! No! There's too many of them! Bruce yells out as his Hulkbuster is covered in aliens. A sudden streak of power lit up the sky, striking the battlefield. Layla's lips curved faintly, relief flooding her expression. Thor, she whispered. Thor, Rocket and Groot stepped forward onto the battlefield. Scarlet grinned in relief. About damn time. Clark smiled faintly as Thor, Rocket and Groot. Now it's a fair fight, he muttered before blasting back into the sky to tear apart another ship. Bruce laughed as his helmet disappears into the suit. You guys are so screwed now. Further up, Scarlet Stark soared into the fray in her Stark Tech armor, repulsors blazing. Come on, you ugly mutts, she shouted, blasting an Outrider mid-leap. Rocket slid in beside her, firing his rifle. You fight like your brother, Rocket barked. Scarlet smirked. I fight better. She spun, firing her shoulder cannon and wiping out 3 more. Scarlet swooped down low, blasting 2 enemies, pinning down M'Baku. Heads up, tree guy, she shouted as Groot launched his branches to trap a cluster of Outriders. Together, they tore the creatures apart in a violent sweep. I am Groot, Groot says, translating to not bad for a Stark. Scarlet looks over Groot confused, mixed with shocked. Did the tree just spoke to me? Focus, Rocket yelled, rolling his eyes as he fired. Thor's lightning split the battlefield. Bring me Thanos, he roared, surging forward. Layla allowed herself the tiniest smile, but her gaze flicked back to Shuri. The princess was still working at a maddening pace. On, Layla murmured, glancing nervously between the battlefield and the glowing stone. Rocket shoots at the alien army. Come and get some, space dogs. Bucky notices an army coming towards them, so he lifts up Rocket and spins around as he shoots alongside Rocket. Rocket looked up and asked, How much for the gun? Not for sale, Bucky replied, not sparing him a glance. Rocket looks at his arm before asking again. Okay, how much for the arm? Bucky looks at him for a moment before walking off. Layla almost laughed, a strangled sound caught in her throat, but the smile quickly faded when she spotted Steve. He was panting hard, shoulder to shoulder with Thor. New haircut? Steve asked. Thor looks over to Steve and gestures at his chin. Noticed you've copied my beard. Thor introduces Groot as Groot branches speared through some army. By the way, this is a friend of mine, Tree. Groot lifts up his arm as he looks over to Steve. I am Groot. Steve paused. I am Steve Rogers. Layla giggled softly, shaking her head. Only Steve. But the sound died instantly when the ground rumbled beneath her feet. Wanda walks over to the window where Layla is standing. Laila. I see it, Laila whispered. Her stomach twisted with fear and she turned to face Wanda. Voice urgent. Go. I'll keep Vision safe. Wanda hesitated, but the ship's shadow drove her forward. Pietro zipped in to shove one away from Natasha's flank. Careful, redhead, he teased with a grin. Natasha smirked faintly. I had it handled. Natasha and Okoye fight side by side and Natasha notices a ship with spikes heading towards them. Wanda lands in front of them and uses her magic to lift it up, then looked behind her to see more alien army heading towards her, and she slams the ships towards them. Why was she up there all this time? Okoye asked, not knowing Laila heard her through her comms. Laila couldn't help a sharp, tense laugh. Good question, she whispered. Shuri's hands blurred across her display. Almost there, just a little longer. One of the soldiers looked to his side and sees someone before they attack him. Everyone walks over to attack the alien. Laila stepped forward, shielding her stomach instantly as the alien draws closer. Shuri managed to remove the stone from Vision, and without a second thought, Vision pushed the alien out of the window with him. Vision! She cried, fear cracking her voice. Guys, we got a Vision situation here, Sam says as he watches but get attacked. Steve uses the comms on his shield to yell, Someone get to Vision! Clark landed beside Steve, punching an outrider across the field. Need a hand? He asked. Steve braced his shield, chest heaving. Wouldn't miss it. Bruce flew past. I got him. Wanda presses her comms. On my way, dash! Proxima knocks her off her feet, and she grabs Wanda by the shoulders and forces her to look at her. He'll die alone, as will you, Proxima hissed. She's not alone, Natasha spat back. Inside, Shuri gasped. The stone pulsed in her hands. She had it. I did it, Shuri whispered. Her triumphant eyes darted to Laila. You did it, Laila replies excitedly. Laila smiles before watching the battle again, worried about everyone, and Shuri watches next to her. Vision is trying his hardest to fight back, but keep getting knocked onto his back. Bruce in his Hulkbuster lands in front of him. Bruce raises his hand at each alien that was attacking Vision. Oh, no, you don't. This isn't going to be like New York, pal. This suit's already kicked the crap out to the Hulk. The alien with an axe goes in to attack Bruce, and both of them went flying away. Guys! Vision needs backup. Now! Bruce yells as he fights off the alien. Bruce starts to beg for Hulk to come out, but he screamed, No! Oh, screw you, you big green asshole. I'll do it myself, Bruce yells back at Hulk. Bruce starts to fight the alien again, and he quickly thinks by putting the handle of the arm on the alien and blasting him away. To Vision, he's fighting another alien, but he ends up getting stabbed, and the alien notices he doesn't have the stone as Okoye, Natasha and Wanda fight Proxima. Wanda uses her magic to lift her up and kills her by putting her near the ship with spikes. Natasha looks over at Wanda and Okoye. That was gross. Laila watches in horror as she sees Steve getting choked. Then she sighs with relief as Vision stabs him in the back after Steve went to help Vision. Wanda lands next to Vision and Steve runs over to them. Are you okay? Vision gets a bad feeling and Wanda looks at him confused. What? What is it? He's here, Vision says as he looks at her and Wanda's face drops. Steve calls out in his comms on his shield. Everyone, on my position, we have incoming. Laila looks over to Shuri, worried as she looks back at her with the same expression. Thanos, Laila whispers. Thanos steps out of the blue smoke and everyone starts to charge at him after defeating everyone who is coming at him. He raises his hand that has the gauntlet, and the stone flew out of Shuri's hand and lands into its spot on. Laila watches Thor throw his Stormbreaker at Thanos, which landed on his chest. No! Laila screamed, the sound breaking out of her as if it could stop him. I told you. Thor said as he pushes the Stormbreaker into Thanos' chest more. "You'd die for that." You should have gone for the head," Thanos rasped weakly. Thanos lifts his hand up and clicks his fingers. "No!" Thor yelled. A blinding flash followed by silence. Layla staggered back, a cold, wrong sensation crawling through her body. Her hands trembled as she reached for her stomach. "Steve," she whispered hoarsely. Layla's body turned to dust, scattering before Shuri's wide eyes. The last thing Layla felt was the faint flutter of the life inside of her, gone with her. On the battlefield, Steve looks around before realizing. "Layla!" Steve mutters before running towards the lab. Steve stopped as he sees Bucky walking towards him. "Steve?" Bucky calls out as he walks over to him, as he looks down at his metal arm as it's dusting away before falling and disappearing. T'Challa crawls towards Okoye. "Up, General, up! This is no place to die." T'Challa also disappears from the dust. Groot, leaning on a broken tree, looks over to Rocket. "I am Groot." Rocket's ears flattened, his voice breaking. "No, no, 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 no! Groot!" His claws scraped uselessly against Groot's fading form. Wanda and Vision starts to dust away as well quietly. Somewhere in the brushes, Sam also got dusted away. Rhodes missing him by a few seconds. "Sam!" And near the rubble, Scarlet Stark froze in place, horror in her eyes as her hands broke apart into ash. "No! Tony!" Her voice faltered as she vanished completely. Clark was there in an instant, his cape torn, dirt and blood streaking his face. He only caught the empty air where she had stood, her ashes slipping through his fingers. "Scarlet!" he shouted, his voice echoing across the battlefield. His knees hit the ground hard, his hands trembling as the dust settled against them. "No, no, please, not her." Clark's cry shook with fury, grief and helplessness, even though he couldn't escape.